Welcome to maintenance of a 2500 Mark 1 Triumph, or should that be repairs? I don't know. But today we're going to put the radiator back in, make a bracket to put a couple of fans on it, and wire up the controller that will turn the fans on and off. So let's get on with it. Well, just here's the radiator. It's all been repaired. There was a crack up the top just there. Now here we have all the stuff that's come in relation to the fans. There's two fans. They just fit across the radiator. This thing there goes in the top radiator hose. You need to cut the hose and put that in, and then this here screws in there. It's a sensor, and then there's this controller which you can adjust the temperature to when you want the fans to turn on and off. Problem there is going to be wiring it up. This car's got a battery in its boot and it needs to have permanent power, otherwise every time I hit the kill switch the fans will lose their memory. And so let's get on with it. Alrighty then, what we're going to do here is cover this radiator so I don't damage it in the process of making some brackets. And we're going to fit some fans on here. Well, like that. So that's roughly where they'll go. And what we'll do is put piece of aluminium along the bottom like that, another bit at the top, make some angle brackets up here, and hey presto, we'll have some fans on the radiator. Bend it. Well, that's it. The fan brackets are all made, all drilled, and everything's ready to go. Do I have to take them and paint them now, and then I can put the radiator in and generally get on with it. That was quite painless really, and there you go. Well, let's try and get this radiator in without damaging it. Well, the fans are nearly in. I've just got to do up a few more bolts and that part of the job will be done. Well, the fans, the radiator are in. Not all done up tight and the hoses aren't on, etc., but I did make some progress. I sort of had more room in here between the radiator and the engine than I turned out to have, and had to modify these brackets, which makes them end up like most of the brackets I make ended up looking pretty dodgy, but at the end of the day it'll probably work. And I had to also move the remote oil filter a little bit, so one of those days. Well, that's about it for today. Didn't get as much done as I'd hoped. The brackets didn't quite turn out as well as I'd hoped either. At any rate, back to it tomorrow. Everything you do to these cars, everything you add, whether it's an electric fan or oil cooler, whatever it is, it impinges on the space you once had. And now, as I found when I put the radiator in, it was a lot harder to get to the bolts with the oil cooler there. And now, with the fans and the brackets, it's going to be a lot harder to get the radiator hose on. Probably more importantly, it'll be hard to, in the old days you sort of had a screwdriver from the engine bay, and you won't be able to do that now. And to get to this bottom hose clamp, it's going to take jacking the car up or taking the wheel off and to get to it from out here, which on the side of the road may well not be a happy thing for me. But that's the price you pay, eh? This car has a catch tank just up there, and it's very old and it rusted out, and I put a new fancy aluminium one on, but that's why things are so oily down here. So much crap leaked out of that thing. Now the top hose has got to have this put into it, so you've got to cut the hose and put this in it, which is going to be a tight fit because there's a sensor going there that will work the fans. So I might look at the instructions, and I know real men don't read instructions, but I will, because I think that distance there has to be actually cut out of the hose, and I need to find a suitable place which is not going to be easy in this hose to put it. Alright, what I've done is cut a bit out of this hose. Now the instructions tell you to cut that distance there out of the hose, but because of the bend and everything in this, that's not really going to work. So I'm going to cut that distance off at the end here because it'll take it, and that should fix those problems up. Before I do that, I'll find a screwdriver. So what I'll need to do, I've sort of located that roughly where it should be, and I'll just put some hose clamps on there first, I think. I'm just going to put this sensor in before I do anything. It's got an O-ring on it, so I'm assuming it doesn't need any sort of sealant or anything. The O-ring will seal it up. Well, that's the top hose on. Alrighty. What's next? I'll either have to put on the sort of controller. Well, I think I've found a place to put this controller, but I'm going to have to make a bracket to go down in here, and hopefully put it there. Alrighty, I'm going to do the earth wires first. Now, I'm going to use crimp terminals because maybe I need to pull this radiator out or the fans out again. I want it to be a simple process. Alrighty, what we've got here is a wire that wants just ignition power. This one's a obsolete wire that wants an air conditioner. Doesn't have this car. This one's the dreaded one. I'll have to find some wire and feed this one all the way into the inside of the car and pull the console out and try and hook this to permanent power on the back of the battery kill switch. That will be last. So let's see if I can find some ignition power. There's a fuse box here that into the car inside the cabin. I don't know, whoever comes up with a cable tie that when you cut the end off it, it doesn't chop you about, will probably become a multi-millionaire. Well, I've got to pull this panel here to get to this kill switch to get permanent power for these fans. I only had this panel off not long ago, and it's not my favourite job. Okay, as you can see, it's the bottom one that's power, permanent power. So I'll have to disconnect the battery. You know, I think I will put two wires on here. One of them I'll just label and tape it off, and just in case I ever need permanent power again, I won't have to go pulling this bloody dashboard out. Well, another problem I noticed when I'm working on that was that fan belt looked pretty dodgy. So the old one's off and a new one is gonna go on, I hope. Now some things are amazing, you know. But down in here, sitting on this old battery tray, there's a little bolt, or nut I should say. Now that nut is off the coil. I used to have a spare coil bolted there, and some 2 years ago I gave that coil to a fellow competitor who was having trouble, and I've never got around to putting another one there. And this little nut has been sitting there for 2 years now. Why did that not bounce and disappear into the, but never, eh? Must be getting close to being finished now. When you see the wheels starting to go back on. I was going to need a wheel alignment, that's for sure. And I'm not entirely confident with the fan switch yet, in as much as I haven't got the fans to turn on. It's perhaps a bit too modern tech for me. It's all wired up correctly as near as I can tell. I just think the car's getting hot enough. Probably need to drive it to generate enough heat to so that'll probably be the next thing. I'll take it for a little drive, wheel alignment or no wheel alignment. It's not that, well, it's out, but it won't kill the tyres to go around the block a couple of times. And see if I can get these fans to turn on. I had the same problem with the Toyota. I put a new switch in it to activate the fans. I left it idling for 20 odd minutes. They never turned on, and it wasn't until I drove it that they did. Even then I had to drive it quite a long way. So I might actually leave it till after this car's had its wheel alignment and then take it for a decent drive to test everything. Yeah, on the freeway to check the wheel balance and just see if I can get these fans to turn on. It's well, things are just about done and dusted, I think. The fans haven't actually turned on yet. I think I need to drive it. So I'll arrange to have a wheel alignment done and do that on that day. So yeah, the rack's in. Radiator's all done, fans are on, cooler's on. Miscellaneous other things are all done and dusted. So she's all ready to go for a bit longer. There's always more to do, but that can wait for a while. Well, the old Mark 1 is finished for the work I'm doing on it at the moment anyway. So the rack's in, the cooler's on, the radiator's repaired, the electric fans are hooked up. Haven't sort of got them to turn on yet, but I need to drive it for that. So I'll do that on the day that it gets its wheel alignment. And otherwise, all is good and it's ready to go off to an event in a few weeks. And but of course there's always plenty to do to these old cars. The gearbox is getting pretty tired, as is the clutch, so at some point they'll need doing. Bodywork wise, this rear guard hit a wall at Amaroo or Oran Park and it's full of bog, and every 5 or 6 years that sort of rust comes or the bog starts to bubble up, and all in all I'll need to do some work there. The whole car really needs painting. I don't know if the camera will see it, but it's all bubbly and damaged, but there's not much I can do about that. The rules and regulations governing spray painting in your backyard are such that I'm not really going to do it. Here's a bit of damage on the roof, but I can sort of patch things up. I'll get away with that, and so I'll do that. The motor's getting pretty tight as well, but seeing it's only a car that gets used for events, it will last a bit longer. Maybe once the dolly's all finished I might be able to get on to do a few things to this as well. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Maintaining a Mark 1 Triumph. So tune in, same duck time, same duck channel next time for more mechanical adventures. Bye for now.